Hi everybody, my name is David Lockington. I'm a consultant ophthalmologist in Glasgow, Scotland, and it's my privilege today to talk to you about how to burn bright without burning out. Why am I doing this? Well, this is my story. I grew up in Northern Ireland, and in 2007 the junior doctor jobs were changed by the government, and that meant you had to reapply across the UK. We had to choose between geography or specialty, and whenever you have personal reasons which would keep you in the home country, but your work makes you move to a different country, it makes you question, why am I actually doing this? And that really lit a fire under me. And my encouragement to you today is to burn bright, but don't get burned while you're doing it. And that raises the question, what is your reaction to adversity? Do you resent it or do you transcend it? Do you give up or do you rise above? And my suggestion to you is you do the next right thing. And if you keep hearing the answer no, then challenge your situation and say, watch me. Because it's been my observation that success is largely a matter of hanging on when others have let go. So if you're here today, hopefully you want to rise above mediocrity, and what will challenge you will ultimately change you. So we're going to talk about the why of work, what is burnout, some strategies. It will become personal, and hopefully then you can think about things. Doctors are all telling us they're burnt out, particularly if they are of the female sex, if they don't have job autonomy, or their particular practice type. But it's not just doctors. Patients also feel burnt out after the COVID pandemic. And now what they're doing is they're coming to hospital fighting for their rights. But sometimes, unfortunately, they're just fighting. And that raises the question, is burnout inevitable for high achievers and who doctors are? And in order to address this question, we need to look at some of the philosophers of the day. And where better to start than the best philosopher of them all, Derek Zoolander, who told us, is there anything more to life than being really good looking? Now, like me, I'm sure you struggle with that question every day, and we're going to see if there is something else to motivate us. So what does motivate you in life? Is it money? Is it reward? Is it desire to be the best? Do you want to help others? Do you want fame, recognition, or passion? These things are okay in balance, but if they're out of balance, then you may eventually burn out. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, I give 110% to my job. I hate this phrase. Can you actually do that? Because if you give 100% of yourself to work, you have 0% for everything else. And what does 100% at work look like? Well, sometimes it looks like this. If you're going to give 100% to work, you might just do 12% on a Monday, 23% on a Tuesday, and only 5% on a Friday. And this is the problem with this mentality. It leads to disincentivize medicine. If you're paid in spite of what you do, why make an effort? To make that more scientific, we can look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What are you doing to ensure you're thriving, not just surviving? And if you look at the bottom of the pyramid, you can see physiological needs are most important. If you don't have that foundation to eat and be healthy, how are you going to be the best doctor you can be? And that is where people have the phrase work-life balance. But who decides that? And is it the same for everyone? Because if you take that pyramid of needs and think about your life, actually what you do physically impacts on what you do spiritually and mentally. That leads us into burnout, which is an occupational phenomenon. People are stressed, they're frustrated, they just feel wiped out. And even if you haven't suffered from that, can you relate to it in others? And can you see how other people are acting? And therefore you can apply those warning signs to yourself. Because stress is not all bad. If you want to build your muscles, you need to stretch them. You just don't want to snap them. And this is very relevant, I'm sure, if you have teenagers at home. They need to get out of bed and get on with the day. So what causes stress? Well, stress flows into your bucket, if you like, and then it's let out. So you need to ask yourself what things use up your energy, and they'll be different for everybody, and then what things replenish your energy. And you may wish to plan to have those things going forward so you can be the best doctor or person you can be. So know your own stress bucket and take steps to avoid the demands and ensure you put in place the coping strategies. If we think of the ABCs of doctors' core needs, everybody wants autonomy, everybody wants belonging, everybody wants to be competent. And unfortunately, our work environments can remove us from this and we feel isolated. They will tell you about resilience. Resilience has been able to deal with adversity, but this is built on the fact that you got through something. So if we're always avoiding stress, avoiding being stretched, it shouldn't surprise us that we melt at the first sign of trouble. Here are some domains, but I would suggest to you what you really want to do is teamwork and collaborate. That raises a further question. Who actually influences you? Are they a radiator to make you shine? Or are they a drain to take away all your energy? So you could also be proactive in that. You could be a mentor to help others, but even as a senior, You can see people to mentor you. We can all learn from each other. And this will allow you to not only survive, but thrive. So those are some basic principles about burnout. I'd now like to make it personal to try to illustrate this. And so in doing that, I've made up these suggestions which should help you avoid burnout and love your job forever. So this is the moment you want to take a picture of this screen, because you're going to want to read this again in the future. Particularly, don't forget ice cream, which is really important in the heat of Barcelona. So how do you decide to do anything? Well, you want to ask, is it urgent and important? And if it is, you should do it. If it's not, you may wish to delegate or schedule, but some things you might need to delete. And for some of you, that may be cat videos on Facebook. I trained long and hard to be a cornea and cataract subspecialist, but my new subspecialty interest is where am I at 6 o'clock at night? And if you consider that as your priority, you can work back from that, and it allows you to get a life-work balance rather than a work-life balance. In order for that to happen, you need to establish boundaries. Zoom calls were fantastic in the pandemic, but they have eroded the boundaries between your home life and your work life. And so you need to reestablish your personal space. One of the ways to do this is to have effective time management. You don't need to be crazy like Mark Wahlberg to be this extreme, but if you plan nothing, that is exactly what you'll achieve. Now, my wife got into park runs, which are 5K runs during the pandemic. She did couch to 5K, which is a thing. I, on the other hand, did 5K to couch. But the reason she loved it was because she was part of a community and part of a common goal. And your workplace maybe felt like that once upon a time, but that is gone. Now, the problem with these sort of communities, as well you might know, they all joke, how do you know someone's a park runner? Don't worry, they'll tell you, because they do all this crazy stuff on Strava and Fitbit. But really, it's good to be part of a team, and I think that is the attraction. It's also good to be a good colleague. And if you ask someone, how are you? You need to listen to the answer, because invariably they will say, I am fine, but then actually they're not fine. And so it's worth asking the question and listening. Work can take over, so if you can diversify, you will get variety. Get involved in the colleges, get involved in the congresses, show people a better way. It's hard to drag people with you, but if you trailblaze and burn bright, I think people can find that life could be much more interesting. Maybe some of you are academic and you were good at writing papers. Why don't you do a higher degree? I laughed whenever I did this talk for a different company and they managed to misprint my degrees. And it reminded me of after I did my PhD by published work, I managed to phone the Nuffield company where I do a little bit of private work, and I asked them, could you please put my new degree, PhD, after my degrees? And it's a good lesson to check what actually happens on social media, because they literally put the words PhD after every single one of my degrees. And you can imagine I don't actually have 4 PhDs, so this is false advertising. So please check what they write about on the internet. To make this more high level, the question really is, why do you do what you do? Have you a mission statement? And some people have a higher calling. That is why they can persevere under persecution. The corporate world spend a fortune in their search for meaning. But this is a tale as old as time. Here we have an illustration of Moses lifting the 10 Commandments. And without getting into this too much, here are the 10 Commandments. And I want to draw your attention to 2 of them. Number 1, have a rest day. You're designed for it. You need it. If you don't have a rest day, don't be surprised that you hate your work because it's taken over everything. And the second one I'd draw your attention to is do not covet. If you're jealous about everybody, what car they drive, how much money they have, you will never be happy. Be grateful for what you have. I have a Mazda. I don't care if you have a Maserati. I can only drive at 30 miles an hour, allegedly. So what I'm really saying to you is they talk about work-life balance. I think it should be life-work balance, but no one knows what that is. The balance has to come from within you. And so to highlight that, I'm sure you've heard of FOMO, the fear of missing out, and that's probably happening at this Congress. People are jealous and annoyed they're not getting to speak. Why did I not get this opportunity? Why did I not get this gig? Why am I not speaking? Me, jealous, jealous, jealous. It's a recipe for being unhappy. What I would encourage you to do is forget about FOMO and embrace JOMO, the joy of missing out. I am so happy for you to have this opportunity. I literally couldn't care less in a nice way, and I will enjoy what I have and you enjoy what you have. You shine, I'll burn bright. It's fine. And if we're not comparing each other, then I think you'll find that Comparison is the thief of joy, so let's maintain our joy. So let's go to the other philosopher, Oprah, who tells us if you're thankful for what you have, you'll end up having more, but if you concentrate on what you don't, you will never have enough. Now, I pointed out to you the ice cream, which is really important. But if you look at the 12 stages of burnout, this to me reminded me of ice cream flavors. I'm just going to remind you that you should always plan and take your leave. It's there for a purpose. In other walks of life, you can sell your leave back to the company. That is crazy. Take your annual leave, your study leave. Come to the conferences and be inspired. Get your head above the water. Maintain your perspective. And so in conclusion, I don't think burnout is inevitable, but it's all about how you're actually burning. I read these books putting this together, and I would suggest you read them as well. 4,000 Weeks is written by a humanist. Reset is written by a Christian pastor. And Physician on Fire is written by Haider, a Muslim ophthalmologist. And you'll be able to learn truths and helpful things within this. But the bottom line is, how do you measure success? And you've been told it's your title and it's your salary. But the reality is there's so much more to measure than those two things. We're told that time is money. I would finish by saying, actually, money is time. So I would ask you, how are you spending your time? Thank you so much for your attention.